Single dad offered shelter to his CEO. Single mom. In Storm, what happened next? Shocking. Marcus Rivers had learned long ago that life doesn't hand you a script. At 34, he was raising his 7-year-old daughter, Emma, alone, working the night shift as a janitor at Hartwell Tech Solutions, and trying to hold together a life that seemed determined to fall apart. But on that particular Thursday evening, as dark clouds gathered over downtown Seattle and the first drops of rain began to fall, he had no idea that a simple act of kindness would change everything. The storm warnings had been broadcasting all day. Meteorologists called it an atmospheric river event, but Marcus just called it bad news. He'd finished his shift early, picking up Emma from after-school care before the worst hit. They were waiting at the bus stop, Emma's small hand tucked into his, when the sky opened up with a fury that seemed almost personal. Within seconds they were drenched, and the little bus shelter offered about as much protection as a paper umbrella. That's when he saw her. Victoria Hartwell, CEO of the very company where Marcus pushed a mop and emptied trash cans each night, stood about 20 feet away, equally soaked, her designer blazer clinging to her shoulders, her phone pressed desperately to her ear. Marcus recognized her immediately. He'd seen her in the building, always moving with purpose, always surrounded by assistants and executives. She was the kind of woman who appeared in business magazines, the kind who'd built a tech empire from nothing, the kind who probably never rode public transportation. But there she stood, looking surprisingly human, mascara starting to run, frustration evident on her face as she jabbed at her phone screen. Her car had apparently broken down 3 blocks away, and in this weather no rideshare was coming anytime soon. "Daddy, that lady looks sad," Emma whispered, tugging his sleeve. Marcus hesitated. Every reasonable bone in his body told him to mind his own business. This was his boss's boss's boss. This was a woman who lived in a different world entirely. But Emma was looking up at him with those eyes that saw the world as it should be, not as it was. Eyes that still believed in helpers and heroes. "Ma'am?" Marcus called out, his voice barely audible over the pounding rain. "Ms. Hartwell?" Victoria turned, her expression guarded, clearly not recognizing him beneath his hood. "Yes? I'm Marcus. I work at Hartwell Tech, night maintenance crew." He paused, feeling suddenly foolish. "My apartment is just 4 blocks from here. It's not much, but you're welcome to wait out the storm there. Get dried off, maybe call a car when this lets up." Victoria's eyes widened slightly. For a long moment she just stared at him, and Marcus was certain she'd decline, maybe even be offended by the suggestion. Why would a CEO accept shelter from a janitor? But then lightning cracked across the sky, so close the thunder was nearly simultaneous, and Emma yelped, pressing closer to Marcus's leg. "Are you sure?" Victoria asked, her professional mask slipping to reveal genuine uncertainty. "Positive," Marcus said. "Come on, before we all catch pneumonia." The walk to Marcus's apartment building was a blur of wind and water. Victoria kept pace beside them, her expensive heels splashing through puddles that probably cost more than those shoes. Emma chattered away despite the weather, telling Ms. Victoria about her school day, her best friend Mia, and how her daddy made the best grilled cheese in the whole world. Marcus's apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better decades. The elevator was broken, again, so they climbed the stairs, their shoes squeaking on the worn linoleum. He unlocked the door to their small 2-bedroom unit, suddenly hyper-aware of the mismatched furniture, the crayon drawings taped to the walls, the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter that he'd hidden under a magazine. "It's not much," he started to apologize. "It's warm and dry," Victoria interrupted gently. "That makes it perfect right now." Marcus grabbed towels from the bathroom, handing one to Victoria and using another to ruffle Emma's wet hair. "I'll make some coffee, or tea. I think we have tea somewhere." "Coffee would be wonderful," Victoria said, attempting to squeeze water from her blazer. "I'm sorry to impose like this. I feel ridiculous. My car just died on 6th Avenue, and I couldn't get anyone on the phone." "No imposition," Marcus assured her, moving to the small kitchen. "Emma, go change into dry clothes, sweetheart." As Emma scampered to her room, Victoria stood awkwardly in the living room, looking around with an expression Marcus couldn't quite read. He wondered what she saw: the framed photo of Emma on her first day of school, the public library books stacked on the coffee table, the stuffed rabbit that went everywhere with his daughter, despite being held together with more stitches than original fabric. "You can sit," Marcus offered, gesturing to the couch. "I promise it's cleaner than it looks." A small smile crossed Victoria's face as she sat down carefully. "Thank you, really, I don't—" She paused, seeming to struggle with words, which surprised him. This woman gave keynote speeches to thousands. "I don't usually find myself in situations where I need help." "Yeah, well, storms don't check your job title," Marcus said, then immediately regretted it. "Sorry, that came out wrong." "No, you're absolutely right." Victoria accepted the coffee he offered, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "Can I ask you something, Marcus? Why did you offer to help? You recognized me. You must know I'm my boss's boss's boss," he finished with a slight grin. "Yeah, I know. But you were standing in a storm and I had a dry place. Seemed like simple math to me." Emma emerged in her favorite unicorn pajamas, completely unfazed by having a stranger in their home. "Daddy, can Miss Victoria stay for dinner? You said we're having spaghetti." Marcus felt his face flush. Miss Hotwell probably has—" "Actually," Victoria interrupted softly, looking at Emma with an expression that seemed almost wistful, "I was just going to order takeout at home by myself. If it's not too much trouble, I'd love to stay." That's how Victoria Hartwell, CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, ended up sitting at a wobbly kitchen table in a third-floor apartment, eating spaghetti with jarred sauce while a 7-year-old told her elaborate stories about a magical kingdom where unicorns delivered the mail. As dinner progressed, something unexpected happened. Victoria began to talk, not corporate speak or business jargon, but real conversation. She asked Marcus about Emma, how long he'd been raising her alone. With surprising openness, he told her about Emma's mother, who'd left when Emma was 2, unable to handle the responsibility of parenthood. How he'd been working nights so he could be there during the day. How his mother helped when she could. But she was getting older and it was hard. "What about you?" Marcus asked, then immediately backpedaled. "Sorry, that's probably too personal." "I have a daughter too," Victoria said quietly, looking down at her coffee. "Sophia, she's 9. Her father and I divorced 3 years ago. He got a position in London, and we decided shared custody across an ocean wasn't fair to her. So she stays with me." Emma's eyes lit up. "You have a daughter. Does she like unicorns?" Victoria laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her entire face. "She likes robots, actually. She wants to be an engineer." "That's so cool." Emma bounced in her seat. "I want to be a veterinarian, or maybe a princess. I haven't decided yet." As Emma monopolized Victoria's attention with increasingly elaborate career plans, Marcus cleared the dishes, listening to his boss laugh at his daughter's stories. There was something surreal about the whole scene, but also something right about it. In this small apartment, with rain still hammering against the windows, the CEO and the janitor were just 2 single parents trying their best. Later, after Emma had been coaxed into bed with the promise that yes, Ms. Victoria would still be there to say goodnight, Victoria and Marcus sat in the living room. The storm had begun to ease, but neither seemed in a hurry to end the evening. "Can I tell you something?" Victoria said suddenly. "Today was Sophia's birthday. She's with her grandmother this week, my ex's mother. I sent presents, called this morning, but I missed her party. I've been CEO for 6 years, and I've missed 3 of her birthdays. 3. Her voice cracked on the last word, and Marcus saw tears gathering in her eyes. "I tell myself I'm building something for her future," Victoria continued. "A legacy, security. But the truth is, I'm terrified I'm just building walls. I work 16-hour days, I'm always on my phone, and I realized today that I couldn't remember the last time. I just sat and had dinner with my daughter. No distractions, no work calls, just us." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You know what Emma asked me last week? She asked if we were poor. Some kid at school said we must be poor because I'm a janitor and we don't have a car." He swallowed hard. "I told her we have everything we need, each other. And I believe that. But sometimes at 3 in the morning when I'm mopping floors, I wonder if I'm giving her enough. If I'm enough. You're more than enough, Victoria said firmly. Do you know how I know? Because when Emma talks about you, her whole face lights up. She feels safe. She feels loved. That's everything, Marcus. So does Sophia, I bet, Marcus replied. Kids are resilient. And you being there when you can, really being there, that matters more than being there perfectly all the time. They talked until nearly midnight. Two strangers who turned out to not be strangers at all. They were just two people trying to balance impossible demands. Trying to be good parents while making a living. Trying to give their children the world while barely keeping their own worlds from spinning apart. When Victoria's phone finally chirped with a notification that her car service had arrived, she stood reluctantly. Thank you, Marcus, for the shelter, for dinner, for... She paused. For reminding me what matters. Any time, Marcus said, and meant it. At the door, Victoria turned back. Marcus, can I ask you something? Why do you work nights? So I can be there during the day. For Emma, would you consider a different position? Day shift. Same company, better pay, benefits that actually mean something. Marcus's heart started to pound. Miss Hartwell, I didn't do this to... I know you didn't. That's exactly why I'm offering. She pulled out a business card. Email me Monday. We'll figure something out. Consider it. Paying forward the kindness. After she left, Marcus stood in his quiet apartment, turning the card over in his hands. Through Emma's doorway, he could see his daughter sleeping peacefully, her worn rabbit clutched tight. When Monday came, Marcus sent the email. Within a week, he had a new position in facilities management, day shift, with a salary increase that made him cry in the bathroom. But that wasn't the shocking part. The shocking part came a month later, when Victoria invited Marcus and Emma to Sophia's belated birthday celebration. The shocking part was watching their daughters become instant best friends, plotting and giggling in a corner while the adults talked. The shocking part was how easily they all fit together, filling in each other's gaps. The shocking part was learning that sometimes the universe sends a storm not to test you, but to redirect you. That kindness isn't about what you can get, but what you can give. That a janitor and a CEO aren't all that different when you strip away the titles. They're just two people doing their best, hoping it's enough. And on a sunny Saturday 6 months later, when Marcus and Victoria's families had their first official combined family dinner, Emma whispered to Sophia, I think my daddy likes your mommy. Sophia grinned back. I think my mommy likes your daddy too. The girls were right, of course, because sometimes the most shocking thing isn't the storm that brings people together. It's realizing that the shelter you offer, someone else might be exactly the shelter you needed all along. Marcus had offered Victoria shelter from a storm that night, but what neither of them knew then was that they'd both been weathering storms, alone for far too long. And maybe, just maybe, they'd found something better than shelter. They'd found home.